Welcome back. In the previous two videos, we talked about arrays over a number of items or iterations, as well as an array of items. I meant to say loops over a number of iterations or an array of items. This will focus on the same thing, but escaping those arrays or those loops in two different manners, right? There are two built-in escapes that you can find under the conditions. One is the loop break, which does exactly what you would expect. It's just going to break you out of the loop altogether. And the second is a loop continue. What the loop continue does is it will take you back to the beginning of the loop without performing any of the subsequent steps that follow it. So I've taken the array of items example from the previous video and added in some extra conditions, as well as a break and a continue, just to kind of demonstrate what that would look like. To recap, the first thing we do is bring in our data, which is those colors, that array of colors. After that, we're going to loop through the array of colors. And the first thing we're doing here in this loop is if the color contains white, we're going to go to the left path. If the color does not contain white, we're going to go to the right path. So the first thing we see upon the right path is a continue. What does the continue do? Just like it states, it's basically going to take me right back here to the top and start on the next item in my items or my array of items, right? So I'm not going to progress and go down to this transform because we've hit this continue. So it's basically a way to continue the loop without taking any action on the subsequent steps. It's not going to break the loop. It's just going to take us right back to the beginning on the next element in the array. Now, if the color does contain white, the next thing I do is I'm going to check if the color code for that indexed item in the array contains a specific hex code, right? In this case, FFF, right? And if so, it's going to go down the left path, which does nothing. It's just for pure demonstration purposes, which is going to take us down here, and we're going to perform a transform, which just outputs a string, and that's really all I care about. If when we were analyzing that second element at that index, it did not contain that FFF variable, we would basically break the loop. That would be an indicator that something is wrong, and that's not what we want. So this is an actual way to break out of the loop, and maybe we would start something else down here to fix that element because something's wrong with it. You know, I don't know what you would do. You may just be done with your flow because you didn't find an appropriate match. But in this case, it just breaks if it does not match. This break will never be hit, but just be aware, all it does is break you out of the loop when certain conditions are matched. If I go ahead and run this, we should, as we expect, see the first item, which is, if you remember, is black, is going to go here, and then it's just going to start right over. So if I come and look at my actual flow, the data store is read in. Again, just like the last one, there's 6 total colors, beginning with black. The first branch executes every single time, right? The first time it chooses the right path because black does not contain white, which is exactly what we expect. This branch here is only triggered once because it's triggered this time when we see white contains white. If I come and take a look at this branch now, you'll see that we also tried to match this FFF value. When we did match that, we went ahead and came down this left side, and then we performed this transform. And it's only performed on that one time when both this was true and this was true, because otherwise we never get down to this transform value. We hit this continue and it takes us right back to the start. So the continue is pretty powerful. It can let you kind of omit previous or, subsequent steps in the loop when you have all of the right conditions matched. And it's a way to kind of go ahead and say, ignore this, move on to the next item in the array. The next video in the session will be kind of the wrap up or last video, and it's primarily going to focus on using data inside of loops as well as outside of loops. So just keep that in mind, that there are some tips and tricks there. So go ahead and watch the next video, and feedback is always appreciated.